By the end of today's video, you'll understand what PedroPathing is and how to get it initially set up to run on your robot for FTC Robotics. I'm Coach Pratt, and I've been teaching robotics and design for over a decade now. And today I'm going to run you through what PedroPathing is, why you might want to use it to develop your autonomous routine in robotics. I'll tell you what sort of requirements you need in order for PedroPathing to actually work, and what context you'll want PedroPathing, and how to actually get it set up so you're prepared to start doing the tuning and actual development of your own autonomous programs. So what exactly is PedroPathing? It's predominantly an autonomous path-following behavior. So effectively, what it allows you to do is it allows you to draw paths for your robot to go from point A to point B, and it draws a line that your robot is then able to follow between those two paths. It is both an absolute and a relative pathing system that allows you to know absolutely where your robot is in the context of an FTC robotics field and be able to move to an absolute position within that 12 foot by 12 foot or 2.7-ish meters field. It was initially developed by FTC Team 10158 and since then has seen more teams develop upon this as well. So why might you want to use PedroPathing in the context of FTC robotics? In my experience, it makes your autonomous routines a lot more effective in that you're able to more efficiently choose a specific place that you'd like to go to on top of the FTC field. And PedroPathing's got a lot of cool baked-in features. It uses Bezier curves as opposed to straight line navigation. It does also have straight lines that you can go through, but does allow you to follow along curved paths. It uses PIDF control, or proportional, integral, derivative, and feed-forward control, and we'll talk about what that means later. It uses centripetal force correction for turning around edges, and a whole bunch more to be able to provide yourself some pretty accurate, smooth path following. Cool thing about it is it also has a lot of corrections so that you can push the robot out of the way, and the robot will attempt to correct itself back onto its initial path. So how do you actually get PedroPathing set up? Well, you have to first get it all set up, which is what we're doing today, and get it installed on your rover. Then you have to tune it, and then you have to actually develop the autonomous program. This video's purpose is not to teach you how to tune the PIDF control, nor to teach you how to actually do the autonomous program, but it's that initial setup that you need to be able to move on to those sections. So some prerequisites for PedroPathing to work on your FTC robot: you have to be using a holonomic drive, and that's typically something like an omni-wheel drive, something like a Mechanism drive. Could also be X drive, and it could also be swerve drive. Now, Kiwi drive might work on this, but I haven't verified that. The documentation does say that most holonomic drivetrains should work. PedroPathing has support for 6 different types of localization methods. If you want to learn more about those, I've got a full tutorial down below. But in short, you can either use a 2-wheel dead wheel system, you can use a 3-wheel dead wheel system, you can use GoBuilda's pinpoint localizer, you can use a SparkFun OTOS localizer, and you can also use the wheel encoders themselves. And the last requirement is you have to be using Android Studio. You cannot use PedroPathing with onBot blocks. You also cannot use it with onBot Java. You have to be using Android Studio. If you want to learn how to get that set up and installed, you can check out my full tutorial in the videos down below. You also have to have some way to be able to connect to your robot via Wi-Fi. So you need to have an Android ADB plugin installed on Android Studio as well. For now, I'm going to show you how to do all of those things now. So let's get into actually setting up the repository and getting it set up on our rover. So first thing to know about getting Android set up is that PedroPathing has a Quickstart guide here. So if we go to github.com/pedro-pathing/quickstart, we need to be able to grab this URL. So once we grab that URL, we can actually make a copy of this repository. And you can either do this through GitHub Desktop, or you can do it through the Android Studio setup. My preference is through GitHub Desktop, but you can also do it through the Android Studio IDE itself. So inside of GitHub Desktop, I'm going to go ahead and go File and Clone Repository. I'm going to select from a URL. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. And I'm going to make a new folder called Pedro Tutorial. We'll go ahead and clone this over, and just going to create a copy of this. And then for this, I'm going to use this for my own purposes because I'm not contributing to the parent project. I'll go ahead and select Continue. And now that I have this Quickstart one set up, I can go ahead and open up Android Studio. So I'm going to go search for Android Studio, and we'll go ahead and open this Quickstart project because presently I have a different project set up in here. So I'm going to come up to PedroPathing here, and I'm going to select Open for my project. And then I'm going to navigate over to my GitHub where I made my Pedro tutorial. And then I'm going to trust all these projects, and we'll go ahead and open this up. And we'll wait for it to import all of our Gradle systems over and so on and so forth. Now for this project update recommended, you can go ahead and get rid of this. You don't need that. You also need to make sure that your Android Studio is set up using JDK 17. If you're not sure how to do that, you can check out my full tutorial down below. Now, PedroPathing runs on something called a dashboard. You may have seen FTC dashboard or may be familiar with something like that. It's effectively a browser-based tool that gives you some extra information that you can use online. And we are going to be using the panels dashboard. It's a relatively new dashboard that's set up PedroPathing 2.0, which is what this tutorial is about, helps support that. So to be able to do that, we have to have something called an ADB plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Android Studio, and we're going to go to settings. Instead of our settings, we need to look at plugins. And in here, we need to install the ADB Wi-Fi plugin by Yuri Polak. So you can just go ahead and search for that inside the marketplace, but you have to make sure you install that. Otherwise, you will not be able to connect over Wi-Fi to your device. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and connect to our device on Wi-Fi. We're going to go ahead and power on our robot at this point, as well as power on our driver station. Now, with the robot booted up, we need to connect to our robot's Wi-Fi network. So I'm going to go to my Wi-Fi settings, and I'm going to browse for the Wi-Fi networks. In this case, mine is FTC MGAX. I just have the default one set up here. And with that being connected to Wi-Fi network, we now have a new ADB Wi-Fi plugin that shows up here once we've installed this, and we are going to either refresh or search for new points. And now mine already has the Rev Robotics Control Hub 1.0 shown up on my ADB. Yours will not. When you press refresh, it's also not really going to show up. So what you have to do is you need to grab a USB cable, a USB-C on the Rev Control Hub, and then an A cable to your computer. Mac, Windows, doesn't matter. Effectively, you just need a USB-C to A connection that's running a USB 2.0 connection. You can't do C to C for the most part because most C to C cables are USB 3.0 or 3.1, and the Rev Control Hub does not like that. So once you have plugged it in, you will see that your Rev Control Hub will show up here. At this point, you can go ahead and click connect. And once it initially connects with that USB connection, you can go ahead and disconnect that USB connection. And now you have essentially paired this robotic control hub using the ADB Wi-Fi plugin, and then you're able to actually connect to your rover. So now that you're connected, we can go ahead and open up panels. So I'm going to open back up to my browser here. And inside my browser, I'm going to go to http://192.168.43.1:8001. And this will go ahead and open up the panels dashboard. Now, I highly suggest that you bookmark this page. And as well, when I set up, I'm a simple man. I like to use templates. So I'm going to go ahead and select templates, and we'll just click on the default, and this will open up our panels dashboard. So we can see our gamepad inputs. We can go ahead and do on-the-fly editing of different constants variables. We can look at our field. We can set our preset up to PedroPathing. So the field will be the same orientation as PedroPathing works through. And then we can also see any telemetry that pops up on our dashboard here. And at that point, PedroPathing is now set up on your device, and you're now ready to start the tuning process. And I'll have a video on that coming out in the future. If you're looking for more robotics tutorials, you can consider subscribing and liking on this. And if you're looking for some more exclusive resources, things like CAD files, code snippets, things like that, you can consider joining my community in the link down below at shop.broganpratt.com. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below, and best of luck out there this FTC season.